When you're trying to scale your B2B SaaS, you're often fighting shiny object syndrome. And when scaling my own startups years back, I also was constantly switching from one funnel to another. In this video, I'm gonna give you the ranking for all the 20 funnels I or my clients have used to grow their businesses, giving my personal recommendations on when it makes or doesn't make sense to apply certain funnel in your case. And let us start with cold email. I need to put this into B tier, and I'll explain why shortly. So why I'm starting with cold email standard, because this one has been there for ages, and there have been a lot of different changes which came into the cold email game a couple years ago. I think the major shifts happened in 2022, if I'm right, or 2023-ish. What happened is previously, let's say you would be able to buy couple domains, and I mean a lot of you watching this are familiar with cold email game, that you buy 30 to 100 to couple hundred domains, and you start sending like between 20 and 40 emails a day from each, and that's the standard setup which I'm talking about here. However, what happened in 2023 is Outlook and Gmail got very fed up with fighting all this spam and filters and so on. So they introduced a lot more bumps for people who are trying to scale the cold email for their business. Before that, you could look into getting 3 to 5 replies, sometimes 10 replies per every 100 emails you automatically send, getting potentially couple of meetings every 100 emails, every 200 emails, every 300 emails. But after those changes have been introduced, the game changed massively, and that's how a lot of people who historically would be relying on cold email got wiped out, because if previously you could just set everything up within, let's say, a day or two, and having basic knowledge make this work for your business, now you must be a lot more sophisticated for you to be averaging like 15 to 40 meetings every single week with cold email, because the barrier of entry has been increased massively. And then I have another problem with cold email, which I need to mention here, because I have used it for my businesses for years, and I think I have booked a couple thousand meetings with it myself. The main challenge with cold email comes when you want to transition from one lead list to another. So imagine that for 2 or 3 or 4 months, you may be leveraging one lead list, let's say 5 or 15,000 people. And this lead list can be bringing you fantastic results. You're booking like 10, 20 demos a week, everything going great, you're adding more people into your company. But then once this lead list finishes, in many, many markets, it's not that you can easily get another 10 or 20K emails just like that. And when you transition from one lead list to another, your results can be completely different. So let's say if from one lead list or from the first bunch you would be using, you could be looking at, let's say, one good qualified call per every 300 emails, and then you would be able to build up your company accordingly, because you could plan out, okay, if we get this many meetings per this many emails, that means for us to get 10 meetings a week, we should be sending this much. Then every 10 meetings we get this many sales, and that's how you could reverse engineer the growth for your company. But what I've seen happen time and time again across B2B SaaS startups and then all the other businesses is you start hiring people into your company, and then the lead list finishes, and then suddenly you need to let people go just because the new one doesn't perform nearly as nice. And sure, a couple proficient and savvy cold email guys can tell me that, oh, but there are so many different creative ways for you to get the lead list, which I'm going to cover in this video as well. But still, ultimately, what I don't like about cold email, there are two main things. One, the barrier of entry has gotten much and much higher to start getting decent results. By decent results, let's say I'm looking at 10, 20 meetings a week from it. And secondly is this unpredictability which comes when you finish with one lead list. And I really dislike it, because you may be having a successful company, everything is growing, you raise a round, and I've seen this happen real time. And then again, the lead list is gone, and suddenly the startup is going out of business because, well, they are failing to find other revenue streams. The next one I got here would be X and Twitter ads. I need to rank this one, maybe not even C, but I think it's going to D tier. The issue with doing X or Twitter ads is, out of me meeting maybe, if not 500, but for sure 300 marketers in the last couple years and having conversations with them, I know 0 people who have spent like 5 or 10 years doing marketing for different businesses or founders, etc., who would sustainably get X or Twitter ads work for their business over a long enough period of time. We're looking at, let's say, 6, 12 or more months. This is the main issue with them. Can you get some results? Yes, but I don't like investing tens of hours and sometimes hundreds of hours of effort into mastering something which I know by design is not gonna scale my company long term. And this is the main issue I got with them, which applies to B2B SaaS as well, because when you are scaling your company, you want to be mastering leverage. And sure, with ads, you do earn such leverage, because once you turn $1 into 3, you can then repeat the cycle. The issue with X and Twitter algorithm is that it's not advanced and smart enough comparing with some other options I'll be going through in this list. And this is why for now it's D tier, just because, well, if you can tell me in comments that you made money with X or Twitter ads, and you made them work for your business for more than a year, you've been making money and been profitable, please say hi, because you're a rare breed. Now, the next one, LinkedIn content. I think for B2B SaaS, it's a strong A tier. And the reason behind it is, of course, it really depends on what is the type of profile of person you're selling to. However, vast majority of B2B SaaS startups are selling to people who are like, let's say, LinkedIn type audiences, accountants, marketers, founders, etc. And I would say that even though, I mean, you have heard many people say that posting on LinkedIn is underrated, because indeed the thing about this platform, which is interesting, is that the proportion of people who are posting is much less in comparison with the number of people who are reading. And this way you can get, I don't want to say that you go viral easier, but basically, if you are staying consistent long enough time, you should be getting inbound leads, as long as you're also doing some commenting on relevant profiles, and I mean, your ICP is actually on LinkedIn. Because if you're selling to farmers or, I don't know, truck drivers, this is not the place. However, why LinkedIn content, I believe, deserves A tier is because when you get this to work, this is a very nice way to add an extra couple million ARR, just because the platform has very decent reach. You can, and then it really has a lot of compound effect to it, because I made it work for a bunch of my clients, and the most awesome part about it is that once we cracked the content formula, which I think you may find in some of my older videos, I spoke more on that, you just start getting more and more results over time. Now, next one is going to be IG/Facebook multi-account outreach. I'm not a fan of multi-account outreach on Instagram and Facebook. I think I'm choosing between C and D tier, and I would say that, okay, I do know more people who have made money doing that comparing with Twitter ads, so that's why let's put it for C tier for now. The thing about IG/Facebook multi-account outreach, the story there is you get, let's say, 20 to 50 to a couple hundred accounts, and start sending between, like similar to cold email game, and start sending between 20 and 100 outbound messages a day, often getting your account banned. When this makes sense for you, when you know that there are a bunch of Facebook groups which really have a high density of your ideal customers, and you have little money in your pocket. Maybe you're in your early 20s. If that's the case, then this may work for you. However, if you have at least couple grand for running meta ads, I for sure would rather be running meta ads. And I think the longer I've been doing different businesses and helping founders with them, the more I start to appreciate funnels which are platform friendly, comparing with the ones which are anti policy ones. So the idea here is that you are trying to always tweak restrictions of Instagram and Facebook to try to turn them into your favor, so that you can start reaching like thousands of people a day, um, period. What I don't like about it is you're trying to compete in two games at once. One is beating this platform's restrictions, and second is getting your startup to actually work. And I don't like it, because in the end, casino always wins, as people say. And here the story is quite similar, because like with so many other options, which we'll be covering in the next 15-20 minutes, why fight platform rules if you can just play to them and make it work for you? Because let's say even like TikTok organic, I would, well, we need to put multi-account outreach tier D, because TikTok organic is just better than it. And like, what to understand about TikTok organic, even comparing with this one, what's the story here? Instead of you trying to win two wars at once, first war is understanding how to make good content and how to get people to sign up to your product from this platform, and second war being how to not get banned. Well, certainly there's different things going on with TikTok accounts here and there, but generally we put it here. Why? Because firstly, majority of you watching this is selling to B2B founders and not B2C. However, I know many people may disagree with me, but for me, this is much more of a B2C game. What I don't like about TikTok is that you can be having like hundreds of thousands of views and millions of views and still be making no money. For my brain, is not as easy to digest. How can you have like a million followers on your account and yet not have a successful business out of it? However, I think out of this entire list, TikTok is the only place where this is actually very possible. And that's how, like, that's the thing I don't like about it. However, the next one, which I think is also closer to B2C just because of TikTok's reach, is going to be TikTok account farm. I think let's put it for tier B for now, but if you're doing a B2C SaaS, I think this might be S to S plus tier for you. Yeah, actually, look, I would say quite irrelevant for B2B, but if it's a B2C product you're working on, for me, I'm putting this as S tier, because the difference between TikTok organic and TikTok account farm is in the automation aspect of it. I have done TikTok organic and it felt like prison when I used it for one of the projects, because I needed to do, well, that's because of the rules which I heard from everywhere, that I should be posting 4 TikToks every single day. And then this meant that if I take Sunday off, this means Monday I need to shoot 8 TikToks. I survived about 2.5 months like this, getting under 100 views per video and getting absolutely no results. And one day I'm like, okay, I'm just done with this, because like in terms of the amount of effort which it required, comparing with the output, it was just not working. And what's different about the TikTok account farm? I think you have seen a bunch of Y Combinator type startups which have leveraged this strategy, I think Cluely might be one of them, and a bunch more. Story here is, instead of you trying to record 4 to 10 videos a day manually, like I would be doing, like I was doing here, you buy 50 to 100 iPhones and create a content farm where you have couple people operating this, could be remotely, and you are posting like from what I've heard, between like 5 and 15 videos a day on each account. You can get massive reach this way, and also what I like about it is, well, even though it's not super uh, platform oriented, because I think TikTok doesn't like this. Still, what I like about it is, one, it gets you insane reach, and secondly, I see some sort of leverage with it, because comparing with what I was doing here with TikTok Organic, where it felt like complete prison and like, you got me. Here, you may have, imagine like 10 people each operating 50 to 100 iPhones, and you getting like 1 million views a day or couple million views a day. Unless you really mess this up, as long as you get the other parts of your funnel right, I think this is like a awesome route for you to get to hundreds of thousands of viewers for your B2C app or B2C type of SaaS. Then cold email, private infrastructure. Look, since this cold email update, which happened, I guess, 2023-ish, which I talked about, there have appeared multiple schools of thought how to get your cold email to work now. Because back then, I would say that there was a certain consensus around this, that you buy more domains, you stay around 20 to 40 emails per day per each domain, and that's how you scale. And then if you want to push more, that's how you get more lead lists, etc. Now, however, a couple of friends I got who are running cold email agencies, even they have very different perspectives on it. This one is, instead of you trying to use domains provided by Outlook and Gmail, which some people believe are going to get you higher open rates, cold email private infrastructure route is you actually building up all the servers and the infrastructure for cold email within your company. So I think that the Gmail logo would not apply here, but fine, I'm keeping it. Again, why I cannot put it higher? One reason you already know, because one list can get you fantastic results, the other one can completely under deliver. Secondly, the issue with going this private infrastructure route is you have not as much security or no insurance. With the typical classical route, this one is very well studied and so on. However, I know a couple of stories where people would, like some B2B SaaS founders, would set up this fantastic in-house private infrastructure for sending like 1,000 emails per domain daily and doing like 10,000 emails a day, 15,000 emails a day, and so on. And for a month or two, they would brag like, oh, look at us, we're sending like 1 million emails per month. But then this can go completely wrong, because the story which happened for them is that Gmail and Outlook would identify and understand their IP, and then ban all the domains ban all the domains and all the senders which were sending from that IP. And this just terribly affected their business back then, because imagine when you have 90% of your revenue coming from one place, this can like really kill your business. And they needed to do some very heavy redesign of their company back then, because with this private infrastructure route, again, you're not insured for something going like wildly terrible. And yes, you might enjoy some results here and there, but why I cannot put it beyond B tier is because I don't like systems which I can't rely on for years and years to come. What I can actually say about the Meta VSL slash sales deck slash direct funnel. For me, this one is absolute S plus tier, and I'll explain you why. Firstly, Meta, I mean Facebook and Instagram combined, have 4 billion users. All people who think that they don't have their demographic or enough market size to be doing Meta ads, you couldn't be more wrong. Because look, fine, if you are not doing this, better for me and for my clients, because we got to pay less CPM for this then. I have met about 10 people who have scaled to 500,000 a month just by doing Meta ads and nothing more, while selling mid-ticket to high-ticket B2B offers, each being between like 5K to 20K, and some of them even higher, many of the offers being like a monthly retainer basis. So what I love about Meta funnels like this one's, first one is running it to a video with a book or demo button, second one is running it to a sales deck, a different variation of it, and then the direct funnel, which I also include all of them in the same place. Direct funnel being someone goes from an ad to your website, and your website is optimized for them to book a demo. For me, they follow quite a similar route, and that's why I put them all in one place. What is the best thing about them? You get it work once and it gets you all the way to your exit. Try to show me something else but the TikTok account farm, which you crack, and then you do nothing else but that, and you get all the way to 3, 5, 10, 15 million in annual revenue. There isn't. And that's exactly what I love about it. The disadvantages here: takes couple months of effort to make this work, requires upfront ad budget to make this work. Typically, I get my clients start around 3K a month of ads, sometimes more. The more you go beyond 3K a month, the quicker you find the messaging which works and make this work for your business. But I am fortunate to have contributed to a couple of stories where someone would be jumping from this to this to this for half a year and then a year from one channel to another. Then we set this up with them, and just this gets them from like 10K MRR to 150K in MRR in less than a year on 3K a month ad budget. Have this story nearby on my YouTube account. It has insane leverage because unlike some other things here, you don't need to be like, once you have ads which you created, you can have the same ad deliver results for you for 2-3 months or sometimes longer. Secondly, it's predictability of it, because once you crack the formula of which messaging and which variation of the funnel to use to get meetings and buyers, you can leverage it for years. So it's predictability, high leverage, and finally, this takes like less than a week to set up. That's why, no surprise, you'll find me saying that, look, when I work with B2B SaaS founders and help them scale by a couple million in annual revenue, this is usually what we do 90% of time. Because again, out of all the 20 funnels, I'm ranking this one as plus tier because I've done all this and nothing came close. So that's why. Especially LinkedIn ads, which are gonna go, I think they would go B tier. What I don't like about LinkedIn ads: they are nice when paired with LinkedIn content, which we have here. But the main issue is LinkedIn algorithm is just so much more stupid than Meta. I'll put it like that. Because if Meta and at some point Google are already smart enough to start understanding, okay, who are the type of people they should be reaching when you are not giving them precise instructions, and Meta is currently the best at it, and that's why it comes to S plus tier. Google is currently worse, and it's not there yet as much. With LinkedIn ads, look, if you give it complete freedom, that's like a fast track to you burning all your money. I have spent currently 50K, 60K on LinkedIn ads, so it's not that I have read about this from the internet. All these are like battle scars from last like 5 years of entrepreneurship. And LinkedIn ads, look, one of the nicest tactics there for B2B SaaS is running ads to groups. So for example, if you know that on LinkedIn you have 5 or 10 or 15 different large groups which high density of your ICP, this is worth exploring. Why? Because then you can just say, look, LinkedIn, show ads within this group which has 10,000 accountants. High chance you are going to be getting in front of this 10,000 accountants. However, what is the issue and why it's standing close to cold email thing here? Absolutely the same reason. Once you're done advertising to this couple of groups, it's pretty much over, because the platform is not smart enough to, yeah, sure, there might be some LinkedIn ads guru who comes here now and says, look, Denis, I've spent millions on LinkedIn ads and they just work. From me getting on calls with about, I think it was like between 15 and 20 LinkedIn ad agencies. What are the cases when LinkedIn ads still are worth it after this initial running ads to a bunch of groups? When you are selling something high ticket, and here we're talking about something like 20K annual price tag software, 50K, 100K, etc. Because I think that LinkedIn, I don't want to say it shines, because I still don't really like LinkedIn ads overall, is in this range of you getting meetings between $600 and 1.2K. Because imagine when you're selling software, let's say annual license is like 30 or 50K, you're fine paying $1,000 per meeting because you get 10 meetings, you spend 10 grand, but you closed one deal, you got 5 times return on your 50K a year software. However, out of all people watching this right now, this is quite a rare thing, because it's not that everyone sells software for 50 or 100 grand. Secondly, I know a couple situations when I would get people from LinkedIn ads and we would run an A/B test on Meta, doing this one, either of these 3 funnels, and they would have their cost per qualified demo within just a couple of weeks of effort. And then guess what happens after them putting more effort into this for a couple of months? They would not just go from $800 cost per qualified demo down to 400, but then they just kept improving further and further, shortening sales cycles, improving the messaging, etc. And what I don't like about this LinkedIn ads thing is, unlike Meta, it's not that you make this work once you are set. With Meta, you actually do, because you crack the algorithm once. I have personally met a bunch of people who have done, let me see, I think it was multi-7-figure and one was an 8-figure exits just by doing this, nothing else. And I have not met anyone who would get all the way from launch to exit doing LinkedIn ads and nothing else. So if you introduce me to someone, maybe I change my mind on this, but currently it's here. Again, potentially worth exploring if you're selling something for 15 grand or more. The other funnel, which I think is gonna be worth talking about next, is gonna be LinkedIn content with warm outbound, because this one I'll put above LinkedIn ads. Because if you are actually selling a solution between 15 grand, okay, not even that, let's say you are targeting LinkedIn type demographic, most likely selling something from 5K a year all the way to 50K, doesn't matter. You post content, which we have on our A tier, you get people like and comment on your stuff, and what you can start doing is a bunch of either giveaways or other types of content for you to be getting, I think you call it hand raise from your ideal customers. Let's say them commenting on the post or them liking the post. Once they do, what I've suggested one of my clients was, okay, this is the like the content framework I developed for them. And I think basically this story is they were working on a sustainability solution, selling this between like 8 and 15K annual license. So when they came to me, they were having and getting like couple, maybe 1 to 2 meetings per week. I told them, okay, let's review how much business came from which channel for you historically in the past, over the past year. The guy back then was heavily relying on going to conferences because conferences were working for him. And then I said, look, you've got this many followers on LinkedIn. Let us just do a test. And the first 4 weeks, let's post LinkedIn content using this one formula I gave for him and combine it with warm outbound, messaging people who start engaging with posts. Not only it has increased his authority within his sustainability space, but also it started bringing quite some money. And that's why I think that for selling higher ticket B2B software, this is a strong A-tier tactic, which is really worth doing. And just as I was talking about this, I recalled why else I hate LinkedIn ads, because I got another scar from it. I once got to averaging like 20 to 25 meetings a week with LinkedIn ads from my account. And I was doing basically had a bunch of funnels there. I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm getting 20 to 25 meetings a week. Now let me get an SDR into my account so that they start managing all the inbox, booking all the meetings, and take over all this pipeline related work, because it's not that my dream business is uh, answering to people coming from ads the whole day. Why do it myself when I can have a person do that? So this SDR comes in, messes up proxy settings and VPN settings and something, and gets my account permanently banned. What is my beef with all these LinkedIn strategies and why none of them you will see in S or S plus tier? Because I have already lost 4 LinkedIn accounts. With the first one, I'm like, fine, you guys take this one, because back then I was doing all the gray hat tactics you can imagine. Mass scraping, and that's, I think, the account where I learned most of the tactics you see here. It was mass scraping LinkedIn groups, mass outreach from like a bunch of accounts using same IP. And I'm like, okay, when that one got banned, I'm like, okay, fine, that's fair. Because back then, comparing it with the considering all the stuff I was doing, fine. However, this one I think is completely unfair, because I was playing the platform rules and I hated that there is no LinkedIn ads are not designed for helping you win, because the moment you start winning, and as in my case averaging 20 to 30 meetings per week, and you want to get someone else to do it for you and to manage all the inbox, book meetings, do the scheduling, etc., you can be like, you can get into a situation like this. And I was fortunate to have a couple of backup strategies going on, but if I was a B2B SaaS founder relying on this for years, my business would be completely screwed. And I really don't want you to be in that position. So that's why I'm putting this one 2 tiers or 3 tiers beyond higher. Then next one, it's gonna be webinars. So I think this deserves A tier. Why? I would say that they are quite overlooked in B2B SaaS is because I think they're overlooked, and I think they're underrated, because still to this day, if you're selling software for something like 5 to 15 to 25K price tag, this was this tactic has been there a decade ago, this means it should be there for another decade. And my main thing, which I don't like about webinars, is unlike the S tier um, funnels which I have here, it requires you to do live webinars. And when I asked a couple of webinar guys is their thinking on just having an evergreen webinar and not doing it live, they told me until you've done 100 of webinars, you don't do it. And then I'm like, hard for me to become a fan of the approach, which constantly needs me to like which constantly needs your input. So I put Alex Hormozy here, and for those of you who don't know, he recently has done a webinar collecting over $100 million within 5 hours of this live webinar. That's why my hand does not allow me to put it at C tier or below, even though it doesn't, because I think that, look, if if certain tactic or funnel allows you to collect 100 million in 5 hours live, it deserves A tier. That's why. Regarding the application for B2B SaaS, yes, of course, it does make sense to note that prior to it's not that he just drank his morning coffee, jumped on a Zoom, and collected 9 figures. Well, if only it was that easy. Prior to that, he put years of effort and into building goodwill and being recognized by the space. And thanks to that, of course, this contributed to him doing this Guinness record level of webinar. What I don't like about webinars is that for you to make them work, you need to do them live. And I don't like signing up to things which require me to be live. Which require me to get live every week for some, let's say. Yes, sure, you can get around it by I'll put it this way. If you know that webinars are a validated way for you to succeed within your niche, it does make some sense to consider placing another face of the business type person, let's say, and having them do this live webinars. Or maybe you don't mind this as much as me, but I am trying to design all businesses I'm working on and helping my clients design businesses such way that it's not that on Saturday morning each week they're committed to jumping on a webinar. I think in my dream life, I'm not, I don't want to say forced, but I'm not showing up on a webinar on Saturday or Sunday, like, or other day of the week. I don't like things like that. And some of you know the creator or entrepreneur Naval Ravikant, famously known by his book, the Naval Almanac. Basically, he is big into preaching systems which have a ton of leverage to them. Of course, hard to deny that webinars do provide you such form of leverage, but it's just I don't want to commit to showing up on a webinar this or next week or doing this every week for the next couple of years, which is actually required for you to make this work. I know that in couple I don't want to call them creative, let's say I had a couple of clients usually coming from traditional industries. I'll leave it like that. The closest reference I can give you would be leisure sports, because I'm for that one I'm under a bunch of NDAs. Let's say traditional sports industry selling to demographic which is between 45 and 65 years old. Webinars did and have historically worked for them. I know that if they've been there 10 years ago, they're going to be there for another 10 years into the future, which I cannot say about like doing a TikTok account farm or IG, Facebook multi-account outreach, because again, I typically lean towards strategies which are platform friendly rather than something which can be banned like in less than a year. And not just banned, but rather like if TikTok engineers or IG/Facebook engineers roll out one update which is smart enough to get you out of business, you're out of business. That's exactly why this is like D tier for me. Now, next one is Meta Instant Forms. This is a strong S tier. It just is, because I have had couple stories where someone would be doing a bunch of strategies from these tiers for a year or 2 years, still be under like sometimes 10k MRR, sometimes under 5k MRR, sometimes under 30k MRR. Then I show them the Meta Instant Form campaign, and I had a couple breakdowns of them recently inside my Telegram channel, the link to which you can find nearby. It takes less than a day to set up, and I had a person who have scaled by more than 100,000 in MRR just by doing Meta Instant Forms. Took them less than 1 day to set up the account and the funnel. Maybe a couple months in, they changed a bunch of creatives. This story changed my world forever, because especially with me, grinding with like 5 or 8 TikToks a day with TikTok organic for months, and then seeing this story happen and being fortunate enough to contribute to it, I'm like, yo, there are just levels to the game, one, and secondly, it's just unbelievable how different your path can look if you pick the right path at the right time. Because the same person who could have come to some TikTok organic guru who would tell them, look, do 4 TikToks a day until you die and you'll make money. And maybe it would have worked out for them, who knows? But this person was like as equally shocked as me that after grinding for years with their product and trying to get it off the ground for their go-to-market strategy, they made over 100k in MRR with the campaign that took them less than 2 days to set up. Period. That's why it's like strong S tier for me for many and many niches. Now, why it's not S plus tier? Because there is certain difference to it. With this Meta VSL sales deck or direct funnel, the difference is that we are reporting data straight back to the Meta algorithm. And there are a bunch of smart ways to do it at a deeper level. So for example, what I often help my clients do is set up their data reporting such a way that it's not that the success event is connected with someone signing up for the product, but rather activating a certain plan. And when we report data like this back to Meta, it teaches the algorithm to find more people who match behaviors like this, allowing us to scale campaigns more sustainably. So in simple terms, in Meta Instant Forms, the main advantage and disadvantage of it at the same time is that as it is so easy to set up, you're not able to really make the algorithm smarter over time. And why this one is, in comparison, standing on S plus tier, is because by getting the algorithm smarter and smarter about finding relevant people for you, you are able to continually cut your customer acquisition costs over months and years, so that by staying in the game more and more, you now leverage a huge compound effect. Next one, Google search ads. I think they are going to be tier, and I explain why. The issue with, and again, disclaimer, yes, know a bunch of stories how some B2B SaaS founders scaled just by doing Google search ads to, not sure if they got beyond 200k MRR, but for sure they went beyond 50k MRR, which is a great success for many. What is my issue with Google search ads is because when you don't have enough search traffic of problem-aware people coming in for your type of solution, this is a waste of money and waste of effort. Because I had maybe more than 10 people I worked with by now who came to me saying, Denis, we made Google search ads work, nice ROAS, but there is just not enough people searching for the thing at all. That's the thing. And especially if you're trying to scale a solution in a, don't want to call it a blue ocean market, because I'm not a huge fan of this, like blue ocean markets, especially after failing with a couple of couple of apps which I thought are going to turn into unicorn level startups. Old story. Basically, if you know that there is a lot of your ideal customers already understanding the problem they have and they understand the type of solution they are looking for, and you have enough depth in your pockets to outbid competition, you're good to go. My problems with it, you are quite limited in terms of like if you become the first one to start doing Google search ads for your solution and you're able to capture a significant market share before a lot of other people jump into this game, good for you, because now you are strongly standing in these top positions. However, if you're just entering the space where some people are willing to be unprofitable for months in their front-end customer acquisition, well, good luck competing with someone who has like extra 5 or 20 million more than you. As you are very limited in terms of your creativity here, unlike the S tier options, there is not as much room for you to really get your message stand out. Yes, there is a certain way around it, which is called category design, which I interestingly broke down on some of my old videos. When you create a category of one, and in simple terms here, the way it would work is if you think that to solve this problem you need this solution, you're wrong. You actually need ABC, and this is type of ads you can run there to stand out in a competitive market. And well, that's quite disrespectful to the concept of category design that I summed it up in one sentence like this, but for you to understand the direction with it. What I don't like about Google search ads is, and why they're not A or S tier, you cannot leverage them if there is not enough search traffic of problem-aware people and solution-aware people coming in your niche, period. That's it. And secondly is you're quite limited in terms of how you can start acquiring customers much cheaper than competitors, because if your competitors are already bidding that much, it's not that you can approach them in a very different angle to start acquiring customers 10 times cheaper. It's like, I think it's not happening here. Now, Twitter and X content, I don't know why you would be doing that for B2B SaaS. Honestly, I think if you're building some indie hacker type tools, or if you know that your audience exists on Twitter and X, and most likely if you think yes to that question, this means you're scaling a crypto related SaaS, it does make sense, because for crypto related projects, I know this has historically worked and does make sense. However, for B2B, I just don't see an application for it. And then once you see it working, you don't have a predictable way to accelerate it by using extra Twitter ads, because as we discussed, this one is like not as smart yet. So let's put it this way, that for crypto related projects, we can look at this being A to B tier. For everyone else, I just don't know why you'd be doing this. And I'm saying this having like a 40-minute super in-depth breakdown guide on how to get Twitter to work for your B2B SaaS and how to be making money with it. And you can actually check this one out. But I think this is more of a way for you to, like, imagine if you have a portfolio of projects you can build up the following for people to develop it. And then like, Levelcio and few other guys who are like, they build 20 tools, and instead of being like trying to be pretending that they're marketers, they just posted about how they keep launching and launching different tools, and now they have launched over 80, and no surprise, they have like a lot of people who have been following them the entire time. However, I think that if this route made sense for you, okay, let me just launch 100 projects and maybe some of them work out. I understand that many of you are technical founders who like building and may see some sense in it. However, outside of that, I don't see why you'd be watching this channel, because this is not like, I don't preach the route, which is, oh, well, if you're having issues with this one project or this one SaaS, just build 99 more and one of them is going to work out. I mean, that's not my style. The next one I have here is group funnel. I think this deserves a spot in B tier. So what's the idea of the group funnel? Is I think it's a form of low ticket funnel, but with a group spin on it. Instead of you trying to sell your software directly to people, you are running, let's say, cold emails or ads or content, and you're running all the traffic into a Facebook group or LinkedIn group, build it up, and then you can start plugging in your solution and posting about it from time to time so that your audience sees it. I would say that this is not as a commonly used tactics across B2B SaaS startups, potentially underrated. But what I don't like about it and why I'm putting it B tier, even though I know that, for example, some of you know the startup called Instantly, the one software tool for sending cold emails. They have, I know the guy who helped them utilize this group funnel tactic on Facebook. So basically they created a Facebook group, ran ads, people, and posted content. People then would go into this group, get nurtured, and then afterwards they would be given special incentives or offers to start using Instantly. And I think with Instantly now doing, I don't know, 7, maybe even double 8 figures ish, I cannot put it lower based on that. Would I suggest this one beyond all the other options in the list? I think no. Why? Because here you need to solve 2 equations at once and 2 problems at once. One is how to get people in the right people into your group, and second one being how to get people in your group actually buy your software. Because you, and as we've talked on TikTok Organic, you may have a lot of people in your group, but still you getting to convert them into buyers might be a totally different story. I typically am not a big believer in the idea of, oh, let me build the following first and then I do something and then they buy. I think that for each type of software solutions, there is like, I think it all comes down to the business model you're going after and the startup trajectory you want to shoot for. Because if, let's say, you're there to like change the market, go, let's say, beyond 20 mil a year, 100 mil a year stuff, I think that yes, this might make some sense for you, because you are going to be preaching your ideas and your take on the industry and getting a following around it. But I guess mostly people watching this are B2B SaaS founders doing less than 1 mil or under 3 mil ARR. And I would say that this is like a very, like, it is just a very limited option in my sense. So if you know that in your space and in your market, this is worked for something, so for someone else, makes some sense to explore it further. However, if not, then I personally just don't see why not get sales for your thing and get meetings for your product and go the like it's worth an A/B test, but I would much rather get something to work straight away and see how much money I'm putting in, how much money I'm getting out, rather than play this game of, oh, actually, am I building the right audience in my group, and then playing all these other games regarding me trying to convert them. Like a lot more ways. There are a lot more things you need to keep in mind going for this one, and I would say it's just I don't want to compete in two wars at once. That's it. Standard SEO, I think it's a strong A. Standard backlinks and content doesn't get more old school than that. The reason it's on A tier is because it worked 20 years ago. It should work for another 20 years. People Googling stuff and being found in and finding your solution on Google. Why I am not putting this as S tier is because if, again, you have very limited part of your market who is problem aware and solution aware, then you may be like going through the same route as I had a couple people who signed up as my clients experience, because they would be number one solution for like in their space, be ranking the first on Google for multiple keywords, and yet struggling to get like even 10 meetings a week consistently. And they were not selling something super high ticket, so getting less than 10 meetings a week for them, selling a solution for $300 for $500 made their growth trajectory very limited. And what I love about SEO backlinks, using backlinks and content, i.e. the most default ways to scale on Google, it's predictability of it, because if you put decent effort into it, you should reap the results. However, I think the most dangerous misconception, which I often see in B2B SaaS space, is people trying to use this approach of like using SEO for their startup as a way of validating their product. And I think it's very dangerous, because I'm not sure I've gone this route for any of my projects myself, but here's the story. When you delay collecting market feedback for 3 to 6 months, it's extremely hard for you to scale. Because with ads, you launch campaign on Monday next week, you roughly have an idea of how this messaging has demand or doesn't have demand. With SEO, to make it work, it requires quite some effort. And I think I put more than 30 grand-ish into this SEO for my website a couple of years back. So that's why I'm speaking on it. And then you don't know if it's viable for your business couple months in. So that's why you like, when it does make sense for your business is when you're in the red ocean market, you clearly see how couple of your wealthy competitors, how it's working for them, and potentially have some inside knowledge on how specifically it worked out for them and what amount of revenue it's bringing for them. Because with one of my clients, the story was that we basically back then I wasn't preaching on ads as much, and that's why we went the SEO backlinks route. So she was publishing let's say between like 10-15 articles per month, each being 4,000 words or so. And on the side, she would be investing $200 to $400 into acquiring backlinks for the SaaS. And it was nice that we could reverse engineer that, okay, for us to get to this position and this search rank, it would require that many backlinks. So there was some way to reverse engineer success there. But look, it's A tier because if you know that it works for solutions like yours, it does mean that it's worth investing more effort into this. Why it's not higher than A tier is because you might be in a situation that you get to the first place and are getting traffic, and yet there it's like really not enough for you to actually scale the business. And secondly, I think because of this one other thing coming into play, geo, or some people, I think there are a bunch of different names now for it, generative engine optimization. Basically you optimizing your content and website to rank for generative engines like GPT and couple others. I know that like I will have a few people watching this video who will tell me, Denis, how is it not S plus tier and why you are not putting this higher? I think that I just can't, because yes, I think I do believe that there is going to be more and more search volume coming in from search engines, and more people are going to be starting to look for the thing in GPT rather than on Google. That's why I'm putting them nearby now. But I don't believe it. I don't believe in it that much for it to go in S plus tier, because all these things here, I will be able to name a couple of companies for each who I know have gotten from nowhere to a couple million in annual revenue or more, sometimes like 10 or 20 times more, just by doing this thing here, or maybe a mix of this. For geo, that's not the case yet. I think it's a new thing, does have potential. Maybe if you are growing fast, and you know that you're going to be in like still working on your business for another 2, 3, 4 years, I think the combination of this does make sense for you to explore, especially if your type of solution falls into some category where a lot of people are like, okay, what are I don't know, bad example is, what are top 10 SEO tools? And then if you're going for some red ocean type market, I think that if there is a lot of competition which already is ranking here and there, and you are able to gain some insight how much of the revenue is coming from it, then I think this does make sense for you to explore. However, why for me it's an A tier, not S or S plus, is because I think is a bit overhyped. And as much as some people are preaching it to be the next internet and so on, my take on it is, look, it's just harder to make work, and 3, 5 months market feedback loop, it's not sexy, like here you launch this in one day, your thing is working and has demand in a week, or sometimes 1 or 2 months, like when you crack the specific messaging which you need to be using. 6 months from now, like this Meta Instant Forum startup which I talked about, I think they have made over like 40 grand MRR just from that alone. I don't know how much you need to catch certain wave for you to get similar result with this, because this is more of a long-term sustainable game, no ad budgets, and playing the game of 2 to 3 years or 5 years working on your thing. Competitive market that was there 5 years ago gonna be there for another 20 years, and you know that if you capture a good chunk of it, I mean, there's no way you don't become wealthy. And then another thing to note here is why this is like dangerous, because many times when people are starting their startup, they're not I mean, you cannot be confident or 100% certain that you clearly know the best messaging to use for your audience and how to get them into a sale. And also, you might not know, imagine like you get 100 sales, and after 100 sales you discover that instead of you selling to agencies sized between 50 and 100 employees, you actually need to be selling to agencies which are between like 100 and 200 employees. Real story. And all of these efforts are unfortunately don't completely go to the bin, but they nearly do. Because if you shift your market, like the persona you are selling towards, and you pivot your startup, all of this is like optimized for completely wrong persona, which is now going to be just opening your page and leaving in 1 second because it's no longer for them because you moved on. Again, why this is S tier? Because you change your positioning and you make a 180-degree pivot this week. Next week is like all your funnel ads and everything, they're now printing by targeting the new people and bringing them on calls. This one is like let's say that it's like a huge ship that, yes, when it's steady and going, you can travel oceans, but it's extremely like it turns like Titanic. That's the sad part. So that's on that. Now, programmatic SEO. What's the story about this one? For those of you who don't know, programmatic SEO is a form of TikTok account farm, but for SEO. So typically, the standard SEO which I have here is you write content with AI or humans, and then you use backlinks. You then go up in terms of your ranking. Programmatic SEO is you building a system for automatically posting content depending on what the user is searching for. Let's say that we take an example of Airbnb. It's not that Airbnb created a dedicated department where they put 10 people to create like 100,000 website pages. Best Airbnbs in village A, best Airbnbs in village B, or best Airbnbs in this small town over here. If they went this route, after 10 years of doing this, I'm not sure they would still have done all the locations and all the pages for them. Programmatic SEO allowed them to create the core of the website once, and then depending on what the person is searching, let's say best Airbnbs in Nebraska, I don't know, the Airbnbs and the content and everything else on the page gets sent and gets sent to this page accordingly. So why I think that this is an A tier? This is for me between A and B tier because it has huge leverage to it. Because you make this work, you can grow to, I mean, in good and right market, you can grow to the size of Airbnb, Booking.com, or giants like that. What I don't like about it is if done wrong, you can really harm your website ranking, and you can, like, by just uploading 50 or 100 pages a day. There are two schools of thought on it. Some people do believe in it, some people don't. I'm 50-50 because I do know some stories of people who have made a lot of money by uploading like 50 to 100 pages a day for their website, upranking things to that, getting visibility by search engines, stuff like that. And equally, I know a bunch of stories where people got their websites and ranking completely screwed and punished by Google for like 6 or 12 months. And meaning that they would be like shadow banned and get no visibility because of either, let's call it, doing something wrong or missing some things here and there. I think if utilized well, and if you know that there is, like, you are certain that, okay, this is the messaging, this is the market we're going with, and you are dialed in on your strategy for the next 3 to 5 years, because A, might be that you're already a couple years into the business, and B, you have, could be like hundreds of customers, and you are like able to place such bet on your investments. Then look, build this huge ship, start investing into it, because if you know that you're not going to change your buyer persona, your market positioning and messaging for the next 3, 4, 5 years, and you found this like golden formula, why not do this? Especially if there is people searching for it, because this way you're gonna have just such a larger business 3 to 5 years down the line that you'll have a couple extra zeros in your revenue. Now, transitioning from search engines, this one is going to be cold email, LinkedIn groups, and event scraping. I needed to mention it here because it's an interesting tactic. So cold email and LinkedIn group scraping, the idea is that instead of you finding lead lists and doing outbound lead lists in places like Apollo or ListKit or stuff like let's say platforms used by everyone, here you go to niche groups, you find niche industry events, and then you use a bunch of interesting tactics to scrape people from there. Let's say that you sell manufacturing software for aircraft, create like industrial aircraft, I don't know, factories. And then you find out that there is this annual event, most likely happening in Germany or US, that has like 500 or a couple thousand people attending. And this event is called like New Trends of Selling Aircraft Machinery 2026 or something. And or 2025, whenever you're watching this. You can get all the emails either from the event group or this event in particular, and you can outreach everyone from there on LinkedIn and using email. And I'm quite surprised that not as many people would utilize it, especially in higher ticket B2B SaaS, niches, because I think this is one of this creative, underrated, interesting tactics which have worked a few times for a few of my clients really well. Because imagine, let's say there was this event on a specific type of real estate, and I showed them how to apply this tactic. They sent a couple thousand emails to attendees, plus reached out or using LinkedIn accounts. They basically booked demos and had conversations with all the relevant, or I mean, a large number of relevant prospects even before the event has occurred. So at this event, they made a good chunk of money, just because instead of them needing to jump from one networking area to another and looking for relevant prospects, they already, like, attending the event, they had like, I don't know, couple of calendars being full of conversations with prospects beforehand. And I think this is a good way to get the most out of paying whatever it is, 3 to 30 grand for this expensive industry event, depending on what type of event you're attending. However, events themselves, again, I'm not a huge fan of them, because in my dream life, I don't need to go and travel to a couple events every week or month to be growing the business. So that's why I'm biased to rank channels and funnels which don't require committing to effort like this, like ranking them so much higher. And then the last one for today, combined with Reddit content would be going to C/D tier. Not sure why I don't have the image here. Reddit content, disclaimer, it does make sense if you are selling to like very technical developers and let's say I'm not a technical person, so I cannot really give you an example of anything coding related, but let's say if you're selling this extension for this part of code for this type of programmers, and there is a Reddit which exists on that, makes sense for you to be doing something like similar to the group funnel, or in this sense a subreddit funnel, where you'd be continuously posting there, building up its audience, and then plugging in your solution here and there. This, in case you're selling a highly technical solution like that, I'm putting, like, I think it's gonna take same place as a group funnel, as well, like, as long as your audience is there. But Reddit outbound is a strong winner of our F tier / just no, because I used it for one of my projects years and years back, and not even sure about the way to put it. If you want a guaranteed way to randomly get on a bunch of calls with psychopaths and complete weirdos while selling your software, I think this is the way to go. Because unlike all the other options in this list, I think that this one is worth giving a shot for you to just know how fun it is. Because when you're DMing, and back then I was doing it personally and manually sending DMs within a bunch of subreddits related to that project I was working on back then. Well, the amount of harsh feedback or wild calls and demos I had is like doesn't come close to anything else which is presented on this list. So I think this puts a large dot, and this is like a homage type tactic which is going to celebrate our F tier. So this is all the funnels I got for today, and let me know in the comments or by sending me an email what are your thoughts on them here or there, especially if you disagree with me, and tell me that well, I think if you believe that the real reaches are hidden in Reddit outbound, and that's where you're collecting all your millions, I think you'll just not let anyone else know, because unless you send me receipts, I'm not buying that. Like, just no. Appreciate you watching this video, and talk to you soon.